AI is just an extension of what I've been talking about in the technology sector for 30 years. The technology is a disinflationary trend. It's not rewriting the rule book.
DeepSeek, I put it to you, Paul, is positive because it's fragmented up what was a one-band band.
Particularly healthcare. That seems to be one sector that is rife for the book of knowledge that we have on healthcare and coming together where AI can rapidly make improvements to the speed of the process of getting new products. Such a lion's share of those earnings coming from those major 7 companies at the moment, which have had an amazing run. I couldn't buy them at this level. We're going to be hitting 3 trillion of debt in the UK in the next 2 or 3 years. That's the headline.
What do you make of Trump so far?
So far, so good.
DeepSeek, I put it to you, Paul, is positive because it's fragmented up what was a one-man band. Nvidia did wonderfully well. It was a dormant share for so many years, and woof, in the last year, is up 193% last year. You can't have the whole of AI focused on one company. So I'm absolutely delighted. And I think this will cut the cost. I think it'll be good for the consumer, for health, for education, for all kinds of things. Am I on the right track?
Yes, you are. Particularly healthcare. That seems to be one sector that is rife for the book of knowledge that we have on healthcare and coming together where AI can rapidly make improvements to the speed of the process of getting new products out there. I just sense, it's just my sense is that over the next 10 years, if we could have how we can exploit how AI can magnificently move our genuine understanding of our bodies and what's happening with our bodies now to another level, to fast track improvements in drugs and other aspects. I think it's going to be one of the key sectors and one of the key beneficiaries out of AI. The only concern I have is which stock to pick, but that's been the same since the late 90s when we started out with the internet. As you know, we were all knew the internet was going to be big, but it was picking the winners during that period of time. I held Amazon shares in the late 90s. I don't own them I do own them in 2025, but I lost them for a large period in the middle, which was the bit where was the major money-making aspect of that. So it's picking those stocks at the moment, which is a very difficult job, but some major growth opportunities.
What do you make of Trump so far?
So far, so good. I enjoyed this because I think we need to recognize where we are in the Western world with our economies, and not to sort of talk about what happened last year or the year before, but almost to put how we've got here over the course of the last, I guess, 30 years since us 3 first got to know each other. We've been living in a world where really we've been reducing the cost of what we do. The major growth drivers of the American economy over the course of the last 25, 30 years has been primarily technology. And what technology has done, and globalization, we'll take those 2 subjects together, is to look at what we do as society and how can we do it more cheaply, more efficiently, more effectively. There's not been some great invention or revolution. It's really doing the same thing, but doing it cheaper and more efficiently. And it's been a disinflationary trend over that 30 years, which has resulted in where we've got today. If we look at America has benefited from that trend. Its economy over the last 25 years has trebled during that period of time. And we all sit here, say in the UK, looking at this thinking that we're competing. but we're not. We are every year phasing further and further away from that development in the market that's been the principal driver. And we've got ourselves in a mess politically. Again, subjects I hope we'll talk about, but politically it's become harder and harder to work out A, what's going on, and B, what we can do about it. And we've got ourselves in a political mess, tied ourselves up in a lot of regulation and compliance, lots of thoughts that we're doing the right thing, but heading in the wrong direction. And I think it does need somebody like a Trump to come out and bring some common sense, as he said, back to the table. So yes, we're only in the first few days. I'm very skeptical about a lot of what he says and how he's going to implement it. But nevertheless, I think he understands what we do need to do.
Listen, this has been fascinating to talk to you. We should address before we go, because it's very, very important, is the US earnings season, which is about to start. What do you make of that? Who are the stars going to be? Because the Magnificent Seven, we're looking at maybe 25% growth. I'm reading this morning. This things could be different. What are you sort of looking at as far as the US is concerned?
All I would say about US equities at the moment is that they are trading on an earnings yield at the moment, which is commensurate with the highest level that they have traded at. The major difference is, as a comparative at the moment to alternative asset classes, the last time we had earnings yields at this level, we had negative bond yields, typically around 1.5%. What we have different today is we have bond yields that are running at real rates return of closer to 2%. So I actually believe that equities are trading far higher than they ever traded before. And as we know, such a lion's share of those earnings coming from those major seven companies at the moment, which have had an amazing run. I couldn't buy them at this level. Seen yesterday, or seen with the development of DeepSeek, these companies do remain vulnerable to their projections over the course of time. I think they're priced for perfection. And my sense at the moment is it's coming off the back of Trump making lots of promises. Ultimately, he won't be able to deliver on all of his promises. And therefore, I think there's downside risk to that sector. And if we do see downside, I think that pervades right across the speculative assets of equities, Bitcoin, and other things. So I can't chase those companies at the moment.
I have to ask you a couple of questions. First and foremost, only because our clients hold quite a lot of this. Any thoughts on Novo Nordisk? I mean, on this weight loss drug and the situation. Is this a company that you would aspire to in the future? And also, as a sort of parting shot across the bows, it's unfair, but you knew I was going to ask you an unfair question anyway, was, Paul, basically, can you give us sort of 4 stocks that you think investors could do well and having a look at during the course of the next 6 months?
So I think that 4 stocks I might struggle with, but I would start with Novo Nordisk. Again, I'm actually quite very favourably disposed to obesity. It's the biggest killer in society at the moment. And I do believe that when we look back over the last 30 or 40 years, we're going to look back at what's happened with our food industry and our diets and how it's led to where we've got today. And I do believe it's a major killer and something that over time is going to be not just where we are today. I think it's going to be accelerated. Novo Nordisk is going to come in for considerably more competition. So my sense is that we're probably past the best for Novo Nordisk as a company. And it will come down to how they can sort of take this enormous gift of wealth that has come through to their organization and deploy those funds going forward. So that for me is, but I think they're on the right track. So I wouldn't be selling, but I think they may be they may be slightly past their best on that particular drug. In terms of the four stocks, I think really for me, the world is going to face some strong economic challenges. So I'm focusing in on businesses that can do things more efficiently and around cost. The healthcare sector is one sector. Big pharmaceutical companies that have. It's a bit like stockbrokers in the 80s, David, who were able to charge fixed rates of commission for their product, is going to be severely undermined over the course of the next 10 to 20 years. So I think major changes to the healthcare sectors, moving more to a distribution model, more to accelerating medical needs, and somebody's going to get to grips with the medical companies, because I think they've had it too good for too long. And I think that's one sector to look at. And for me, it has to be energy in terms of companies that genuinely, and commodities that are driving the next 10 to 20 years. I like commodities. I like energy because if the world is going to meet all of its requirements between here and 2050, then to be honest, those two sectors are going to be right up there in terms of performance. Hard assets or energy provision, those sort of sectors that I like. Not used by some long dated green new tech energy, but energy.